All right. Again, welcome to our Mastermind call today. It is great to have you with us. We are privileged this morning to have with us Mr. Bill Predebon as our trainer. And just a heads up, the last several weeks we've had Bill. We've been able to watch him present to us, and unfortunately, we're going to revert back to the way we did it before because it was taking up so much memory. It was taking forever to download to my computer and then upload that to YouTube, and I apologize, but we are so grateful to Bill for always being here, for being prepared, for the wisdom that he imparts to us from his experience as a real estate investor, as an entrepreneur, as a team leader. And Bill, we're glad you're with us again today. How are you?
Good morning, Ron. I'm fantastic. How are you, my friend?
It's been a great morning.
It is a good morning. It was freaking cold, though. I got to tell you, walking my dogs at 6:30 in the morning was not as nice as it usually is in Arizona. Hey, thanks for all you do for us. Of course, as always. I appreciate you reaching out to me, giving me a heads up, and just checking in the night before or the morning of the training, and then getting these videos and recordings on the internet and stuff like that for everybody to review and watch. And so it's just a lot of work that you put in, I think, that people don't realize, and I'm grateful. I'm honored and privileged to be on this call and training, and it wouldn't have happened without you. So I appreciate it very much. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. So yeah, I guess we'll go no video this time, and we will go with a picture. So that's cool. We're only at 50 people. So I don't know if it's me or the weather or if I guess everybody's doing well enough in their business they don't need to be on trainings anymore. I don't know what it is. I'm joking around. But yeah, if you want to reach out to some of your friends, family, and folks on your team, and to remind them to jump on the webinar, that would be awesome. Good morning, everybody. I've got the chat up, as you all know, and no matter what I train on, what I talk about, whatever I do, you are welcome to just chime in with a question, whatever it goes out. Thanks, Tyrone. Good morning, Ulani. Stephen, right on, man. So anything you guys have that's in your business that is important to you is important to me. So feel free to shout out a question or get off mute and say what you want. Otherwise, I'm going to move forward with the training I was kind of working on last week. And we'll go from there. So welcome. One of the things that we're going to talk about, I think that, I hope you guys listen to Michael, obviously, on Monday and Wednesday. The guy's incredible. I learned something, I swear to God, every morning when I listen to that guy speak. And then, of course, Christian ends the week with an amazing training, always on Thursday. So you guys tune into that as well. Michael was working on the follow-up and how that works. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about, too, is just exactly what I do, taking someone from a Thursday night to through a follow-up. And I kind of talked about it a little bit at our Super Saturday this weekend. And so I'm going to elaborate a little bit more today. On Thursday night, it's pretty specific what I do. Typically I do the Thursday night presentation, or I do a testimony at the minimum. And then I'm there early. I work with my team to do the real estate mastermind that we do. And we split the time doing IMA training every other week as well. And so
it's after 10 o'clock, but I guess it's correct. Okay.
Hey, don't forget if you're not.
It just looked like it was after 10 at first, and I thought.
Your phone there, friend.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Okay. Good. It's not just. Okay. Because I was like, I'm gonna go with that clock.
I looked at my.
If you can hear me, don't forget to mute out your phone. In any case, as you come on the line, don't forget to mute. And then the other thing is, I would say whenever you can, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't, it's entirely up to you guys and how you want to run your business. But anytime I try to get on a training and stuff like that, or go to an event, and the best way to get the most out of it, and really to make it worth your while, so you're not wasting your time, in my opinion, is play full out. And what I mean by play full out is, be in a place where you're ready, willing, and able to take in the information. If you're off doing other things, I mean, I guess if you're reading an audio book, or listening to a training or something like that, you can multitask. But I'll tell you, when I listen to my classes at the gym, I like that half the time more than half the time I do that versus music. But I'm not studying the class. I'm not taking notes. I'm not really getting the best of the best from that class. I have to, when I want to watch a class and learn, I got to be home in my office as if I'm in the class live. So I think that that's the best way to attack any training. So, if you're doing these trainings in the morning and you're off doing other things, it's definitely going to be a detriment to the actual ability for you to take in the information. So in any case, back onto the subject. So Thursday night for me, you guys, I was talking about this the other night. For everybody, when you, we all have I have a full-time job, right? And my full-time job is real estate. So right now I'd have to add them up. I can't think of how many deals I have going, but it's a full-time business for me. And so along with that, I don't have children, but I have dogs that I love, and a cat, and a family as well. And then I have a rental portfolio that I manage the majority of it. And so, things take up my time during the day. And so on Thursday night, Saturdays, Monday nights when we do our team call, and then we have the webinar, those nights become my second job, right? They become my second business, which pours into my first business, obviously, as we've talked about before. But, when you go on Thursday night, for me, it's a business. I'm gone from when I leave at 4:30 till 10:30 at night. That's like my work time, right? Even 11 o'clock when I get home. And I'm there for a specific reason and a specific time. I'm not in a hurry. In my opinion, I don't know what you guys do, but I stick around. I'm one of the last to leave. I talk to my guests, I talk to my team, and I talk to my friends, and I talk to their guests, right? So until the last person has left and they don't have any more questions or thoughts or networking to do, then we actually move on and we go across the street. And most of the time, my team and I mastermind. I mean, it's social hour, but we usually talk shop, and then a lot of times guests will come over and spend time with us, and that's a business setting. That is a business night. I'm not out having drinks and having fun with my team, although that's there too. But it's an on-purpose event that is made to move people. In fact, a lot of the times when guests come or brand new IMAs come and they're still working on their funding, or they've joined in their mind but not in their pocketbook yet, things like that. That is a time for that. It's another touch. It's another exposure, one right after the other. And so when I'm at the meeting, when I'm at the presentation, my goal with my guests is simply book the next meeting, right? So Thursday night, I don't know what it's like in all the territories, but for the most part, we don't have a point of sale system in the back office, right? And so, you haven't told your guests that you're going to be sold on emotion and that they're going to need their credit card or checkbook and that you're going to be closing the deal. Now, again, anything that I say, you guys, I want to preface this with, I'm a 5-star qualified affiliate, right? But you all have your own upline. You all have your own mentors and affiliates and 5 stars that you count, that you work with. And ultimately, those folks have been successful in what they've done. And anytime you're making decisions on how to, I guess, work your business, check with your 5-star. You don't have to do the things that I do exactly or whatever. Obviously it's your own business. Whatever works for you is great. You have the ability to make your own choices. But, I think that your 5 stars have your best interest in mind. And so, just because I'm mentioning to do it in some way, it's not the way that I'm telling you how to do it. I'm just telling you what I'm successful with and how I prepare myself. So, Thursday night for me, depending on the client and the student and the individual, I don't ask for the sale necessarily Thursday night. Now, you hear Michael all the time, and he'll say, you know, what did you like best? And you guys, that's the only line I use when I first start. I joke around a lot of times. I break the ice with, hey, how'd you like the show? When I get up there, I call it a show. And so I'll be, hey, how'd you like the show? And then I move. I don't even let them answer, because that's a thought process, and they might not have liked it, or they might think about something they don't like. So that's why we don't ask those think questions or thought questions or feel questions. But I move right into, what did you like best? And I don't stop with, and these are some of the things you guys can write down. I don't stop with what did you like best? I go on to say, was it the velocity banking? Is it the community? You know, is it obviously the real estate education and the opportunity to do deals? Or is it everything like me? And I'll actually, they're all good choices, and there's no wrong answer. And that's the only answers I give them. They typically think about it. And now Michael, you'll hear him when someone says something, you know, I've never seen that velocity banking before, and it was just amazing. And then Michael will move on. He goes, great. Right. And I do this too. We all have to acknowledge what it is they say, almost repeat what they said. So what you're telling me is you love the velocity banking. You want to start using that right away. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's get you into that then. Right. Michael will say, we gotta get you into learning that then. Are you ready to start? Michael might ask for that sale or ask them to move forward at that time. Depending on the person, I might move them and be a little bit more specific with a couple more questions, but mainly I'll acknowledge what they have to say. Most of the time, they'll tell me what they like. I like the real estate. I like the community. I really like what Kevin had to say, or, you know, I saw that the deals were happening and it looks like there's a lot of support here. Whatever it is they say, I'm going to acknowledge it and I'm going to agree. I may stop for a minute. I may say, hey, you know, do you have any questions that right off the top of your head that's, you know, most important to you right now? And most of the time they don't have one. They might have one, you know, they might have heard something. I just didn't, you know, I don't really have anything right now that I can think of, but I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions. Or, you know, they might say, yeah, I didn't get it. Is the 20,000 for 2 people or something like that? They might ask a simple question like that. Now, here's the other thing I suggest. When you start to have more folks, right? You've got a team if you're 5-star or 1-star, and then you also have your own guests. And as you have more and more guests, I usually tell my guests when either I see them that night or when I invite them and I'm following up with a text, I'm like, hey, if I don't see you before we start, make sure you come get me, come see me afterwards so we can talk about moving you forward. I always text that, or I'll tell them that on the phone, right? And because I want them to come up to me afterwards, because I'm not going to be able to get up to everybody. And I tell my team that too. So a lot of times, you guys, I'm having this conversation in front of, you know, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 people, where all of our guests and all of our, except for the ones that have run out right away, right? They're all surrounding me, and I can kind of ask the same question at the same time and acknowledge everybody's responses, and then everybody else can kind of hear. And then my IMAs and my team are sitting around with me, and they are, and if you don't have a 5-star who's doing this, or you don't have guests or whatever, my suggestion is stick around. Put in your calendar that you're going to be staying a little longer, and go find a group of an individual, a 5-star individual who's following up with a guest after the meeting, and just stand and listen. You're not going to chime in. You're not going to tell stories. You're not going to communicate. You're just going to listen. Unless you're prompted to ask a question and someone says, hey, you know, the person might say, hey, you know, what made you get started, or how did you find the money? Well, then you can answer. But in the meantime, you're just listening and you're observing, and it's going to train you on how to deal with multiple guests or your guests when they're there. And I think I'm there for a specific reason. And my main reason on Thursday night is to get them to talk to me on Friday. Okay. So, and simultaneously get them to the next event. As you all know, we're going to book a meeting from a meeting, bam, fam, right? So when that happens, I've got my team, I've got my group, and I've got my guests, and I got my team's guests around me. And then, you know, if a newcomer comes up a little bit later after my guest or my team member has been talking to their own guests, and then they bring them to the group, again, I'll ask, you know, hey, what did you like the best about it? Was it the real estate, or, you know, and everybody's reiterating the same things that we present. And it's just more validation to everybody what they've already said. I acknowledge it. I agree with them. I mentioned that we have a better opportunity for them to see more of this. And that's the next step. And then I start to ask everybody, right? It's not a 15, 30-minute conversation unless it's one individual that I'm working with that maybe is a second or third or fourth exposure. But for the most part, it's first or second exposure for these folks. And I am literally booking a meeting. And I want to, now normally Fridays for me, I like to take it a little easier. Sometimes I have some real estate. If you have your calendar, great. I use my calendar in my head. And sometimes I want to make sure that I'm scheduling on a Friday my one-on-ones in between traffic hours, and I'm being very specific. So sometimes I want to schedule the one-on-one for after the second exposure, because one-on-ones are great and they are an absolute must, which we're going to dive into next. But honestly, the more exposures I can get them to when they're a second, third, and fourth exposure, I know my one-on-one close ratio is going to be higher. And so I like to make sure I can try to get them to Saturday's events. Whatever Saturday, typically in Arizona, it's going to be a property tour. Usually it's going to be one of mine or one of my team members or one of our leaders. And I'm going to get them to that property tour. And then that provides time, because I don't want to be working all day Saturday. I don't want to be working all day Friday and Friday night. So I specifically schedule my, now again, I'm in a position where I can do that. For you guys, you got to posture up. In my opinion, you should not be traveling hours to go meet up with somebody. Michael does things a certain way, and there's certain guests that he's going to do that for certain experiences. But, I know that we all know Michael has posture. And again, I use Michael because he trains on this call. I'm talking about all your leaders across the country. Everybody has their own way of doing things and what they're willing to do to get to a one-on-one. But our valley here is very big. I am not going to go at 3 o'clock on the afternoon and go to the east side all the way out to East Mesa and meet with somebody. If they want to meet with me, they're going to meet me halfway at the least. And most likely they're going to meet me closer to where I am, based on my time schedule. I don't just have one appointment that day. And so remember to posture up in that. But most importantly, again, too, is that face-to-face is huge. Thank you, Keely. I love it. So, yeah, I just love this, you guys. This is so important to me. This is what I've been working on for 3 years, and why I'm at where I'm at in the marketing. I've completely made a decision, 2.5 years ago, to fully engage and take on a full-blown marketing business with Renatus. When you make that decision, you will do the same. And so, the most important thing for me Thursday night is to book the meeting, right? And a lot of times it's a 3-way call. So if it's not my guest and it's my team member's guest, I'm right there with the team member. Hopefully they are there. And I'm like, hey, why don't you, I don't have his number or her number. So why don't, Raphael, why don't you get with Jim and you guys text, and then put me on a 3-way text, and we'll figure out a time that we can get on a 3-way call. 3-way calls on a follow-up from a Thursday night, in my opinion, they work, right? It gets some questions answered, right? And it also books the next meeting. That's when I book the follow-up, right? That's when I book the one-on-one. I always ask everybody Thursday night, and write this down, in my opinion, these little tidbits, is that I always ask everybody, can you make it Saturday? Usually I don't ask, can you, right? Can you gives them excuse. What I say is, I'm assuming you're going to be able to make it Saturday. I'm assuming you're probably trying to figure out exactly how you can get out of anything you got going on Saturday so you can be there, right? You're going to make the property tour on Saturday, right? I'm sure you're looking forward to seeing getting the group, meeting more of the group and seeing what we do on Saturday and kicking the tires here with actually an actual live deal, right? I make an assumption that they're going to go. And even if they're not thinking that, because they're like, I'm going to the football game, I'm watching this, I'm doing that, I'm going to the mall, whatever they're doing, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, hey, and now it plants a seed, and they're starting to think, I never thought of that, right? And so I'm like, hey, I'm assuming you're going to do this. And so, but we can, yeah, I'm gonna see what I can do to change my schedule, whatever. Then they're like, throw out something they weren't even thinking about, but now they're thinking about it. And then and this is all in a very short period of time. This is like a 5-10 minute conversation max with all the people standing around, all the people looking for the same thing. And if my team members, like I said, I'm like, I want them to be talking to their team, to their guests, and coordinating a 3-way call, and it's not text. Follow up on Friday is not a text. Hey, what did you like last night? Hey, do you have any questions? Why don't you text me a question? You're not texting questions and answering questions. You're on the phone. This is a people business. right? Text for me on prospecting until they've enrolled in the program and enrolled in Renatus is simply, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget we're getting together. Or not, I never say don't forget. Hey, I'll see you at this time. Hey, here's the address again. It's simple. Great meeting you last night. I'm sure, and I always, I'm sure you're looking forward to our meeting next time. I'm sure you're looking forward to it's not, hey, can't wait to see you again. It was so nice to meet you. What an honor to meet you. What a pleasure to meet you. You're the best. It was, it's none of that. It's the opposite. It's, hey, I'm sure you're excited. I'm sure you're thinking about it. I'm sure you didn't sleep. I bet you can't wait to go see this. I bet you can't wait to meet some more people and all this stuff. And so those are my text messages. They're not, what did you think? How you feel? Are you able to come? Did you make a decision? And none of those things. Those are questions over the phone, or most importantly, in person. So Thursday night is about literally getting a booking appointment for the next day at a certain time where we're going to communicate via the phone. Hey, what's your schedule? What's your schedule tomorrow? Especially if it's my guest. What's your schedule? Oh, I don't work. Oh, I'm off tomorrow. Okay, perfect. I'm going to call you somewhere around 11. I tell them my schedule. I'm going to go to walk my dogs, get ready, go to the gym, do some work, blah, blah, blah. I'll call you between 11 and 12. And I tell them exactly. And then I set that appointment in my head, and I know that I'm going to call these folks, right? And Friday's a call. Friday, I like a call. And then if they have a question they thought of, usually I'll say, hey, if you're like me, you probably didn't sleep much last night. You probably had a lot of questions, right? And you're probably pretty excited about what you saw and can't wait to get started. I mean, I'm always forecasting. I'm always future pacing them, and what I mean by future pacing is I'm saying things like, when you get started, you're going to see this. When you get started, you're going to feel that. Once you get going into the education, this is what you're going to experience. This is what you're going to see, feel, touch, hear, experience, hug. All of those things. I let them know these emotions that are going to come out when they're working with us, talking with us, doing deals, reading the education or listening to the education, experiencing the meetings. And then I let them know that, right? And so this I don't do over text. This I do over a phone call. And then I'm booking that meeting. Hey, where are we at for tomorrow at the property tour? Are you going to make it? No, I've got my kids. I can't get out of it. I can't get a sitter. I can't, it's my kid's first game. They're going to be a little bit more open to telling me what they've got going on Friday than they are Thursday night. Thursday night, they just saw an hour and a half, amazing presentation. They've been there for 2 hours and they're stoked and they want to change their mind. They want to get out of their plans. Friday, they've had time to think about it and they're not, their wives aren't going to let them, their husbands aren't going to let them, whatever it is, and they're not going to get out. So they're going to come up with their excuse and the reason why they can't go Saturday. I don't really care. If they don't go Saturday, that's fine because I'm going to book, depending on the heat, I'm going to book them to a one-on-one. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm doing one-on-ones. A lot of times, they're not necessarily going to pull out the credit card on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but they're going to enroll. And then I'm going to book them to Thursday night again or the next Saturday because I know that when the following Saturday comes up, I've either got a super Saturday or I've got an intensive within those twice a month. So I've got a bigger event coming up in that time frame. So Thursday night specifically, boom, I need to get on a three-way call the next day or a one-way call with them if they're my personal guests the next day and get in that conversation, right? And then from that conversation, I may ask them if they have a question, anything come up from last night that you saw. Did you go look at the website? Whatever it is, and they might have a question or two and I answer that question. And here's what I leave them with on Thursday night and Friday's call twice, right? In fact, I do it all the time, but for the first 2 times, write this down in my opinion, is I remind them, I'm like, if you're like me or you're like most of us here, you're probably thinking already about getting started and you're going to think about the funding. The funding is always something that, we need to decide where we're going to pull that money from, which avenue you're going to use. And so what I like to say is, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, go ahead and start to think about the way that you would come up with the money or that you're going to fund this education, right? And I don't say come up with the money necessarily, but I'll say fund the education, right? So if I can feel the person and I can see that they have resources or whatever, typically I'm going to go ahead and just say, hey, start thinking about which is the best way for you to do this, whether it's your credit or 401k or maybe getting a HELOC, right? Now, if it's a lot of people from cold market, we all experience the inability for them to be able to purchase, right? They're ready and they're willing, but they might not be able. And when I sense that in somebody, this is what I say to them. Start to think about the ways we're going to fund, because if you're like me, I can tell you're already ready to go. In fact, let me ask you this. If money wasn't an object, if money wasn't even on the table, would you enroll in a combo right now if we could fund it for you? Well, absolutely. I knew that about you. I knew that. That's awesome. That's just like me. So here's what I want you to do. Between now and when we talk tomorrow and when we get together next week, I want you to start thinking about you and let me know, if you had to, if it was life and death, if you had to come up with a way to buy a new car, or, even if you had to finance the car, whatever it is, think of whoever you're thinking of that might help you make that happen. A resource that you might have in your friends, family, and your network that could help you in an emergency situation where you needed to get funded for a car or for maybe a health issue or something like that that would be so important to you, okay? Doesn't mean that we're going to have to use it, but that's what I want you to start thinking about. And so they're going to think about it. I mean, they're given an instruction. They're given a homework assignment. And I'm telling you, they're looking for to hear what people have done. And there's no obligation, right? So if they don't come up with anybody, and there's no consequence to it. So it's kind of a very open and free type of request of them. All right, but they're thinking about it. It's planted now in their mind that they have to come up with a way to fund. So at my call on Friday, what I work on is answering any questions. I'm not typically overcoming objections right now. They're already coming up with their objections, but I'm not looking to do a one-on-one over the phone. If you plan on doing a one-on-one over the phone, I think you're making a mistake unless the person is so hot and you can close them on the phone. And you're good at what you do. But in my opinion, this is a people-to-people business. This is an event-driven business, as Bob and leadership across the country reminds us about. And it's a people business, and we need to be in front of them. And that's why you always hear about Michael driving to people's houses, having people coming over, having his iPad out in front of him, having his laptop, and we're going to go over that as well here, right? So I'm not having a one-on-one over the phone. I'm having a quick Q&A. So in this particular instance, I'm not answering questions with questions. Like I'm not question-based selling right now. When they are asking me, well, when I get started, do I get to coaching? I'm not going to go, well, what do you think? Do you think the coaching is neat? No, I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to give them some facts. Now, I'm always going to follow up a fact with what? A story, okay? I'm going to tell a story after every few minutes that I tell them a fact. That I answer a question, I'm going to tell them about a story. And then, of course, and that story is going to relate to their question. Well, I'm not really sure how it's going to work. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing and how much time this is going to take. Hey, I totally get it. The cool thing about Renatus is it's a marathon, not a sprint. We have 400 plus hours of education, but you're not going to be studying it all. In fact, we're going to get on a game plan. As soon as you get enrolled, which you're going to love doing that, and that's going to be the beginning, you and I are going to sit down for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes to set out a game plan, and then you're going to even have your first coaching call. So you don't have to worry about how much time this is going to take. It's going to fit into your schedule. Cool thing is, eventually, it's kind of like food, When you start to bring stuff into your life that you enjoy and that you're getting reciprocation from, that you're starting to get fulfillment from, pretty soon some of the other things in your life are going to go away, and you're going to fit more time in this. Now, you'll experience that over time. You'll start to fit this in all the time because this is going to be something you want and desire more than some of the things you're doing right now. Does that make sense? I'm like, oh, yeah. In fact, I'll tell you, this girl, Keely, was working in the business, and for the first 6 months or so, she was doing the business, starting to work on real estate, looking for long-term rental property and stuff like that. And she's working her job and everything. And what she found was she desired more faster. She wanted to be like the people she was surrounding herself. She was evolving into an entrepreneur, and she realized that her job actually became a restraint. It became a restriction and an excuse. And she actually worked hard enough to make it so that she set herself up financially that she could quit her job. And that became then she freed up more time to do this full time. Now, I'm not saying you're going to quit your job, but what I'm saying is eventually this is going to overcome and overtake the things that you think are so important in your life right now. How does that sound? Oh my God, that's so cool. I would love to quit my job, right? So I answered their question. I told them some facts about the hours of education and what it's going to look like and what they're going to be, and then I told a story. Great. Now let me ask you this. When's the best time for a meet? What we're going to do is we're going to get you enrolled in the education. We're going to make sure you understand all the differences in the packages that you have options for, and then we're going to get you funded. That's awesome. All right, let's look at Monday. I don't want to wait on this. What time, can you do Monday at 3? What part? And I always ask them this, you guys, for like a big valley like Utah, Las Vegas, they're bigger areas. You got to drive farther. I always ask people in Arizona, what part of town are you in? Because, man, most of the time, if they're not in the Loop 101 corridor, man, it's a major difference in where we live. And it's the difference of an hour to an hour and a half each way. So I have to allocate and account for that rather in my scheduling on how long this darn thing is going to take and what time I'm going to do it. And so I always ask them that question so I know where they're coming from and what their schedule is, what their work schedule is, so we can figure out a good time, because I don't want to have any reason not to have it if I'm going to book it, the one-on-one. So these are my questions on Friday. That's the extent is, hey, do you have any questions? Most of the time on Friday, they don't have questions, And so if they don't have questions on Friday on the 3-way call, on the follow-up from Thursday night, I am not teaching. I am not doing another presentation. I am not doing an epic. I'm not doing a one-on-one. I'm not doing a funding seminar. I'm not doing any of those things on Friday. In fact, sometimes those calls are simply booking an appointment for the one-on-one or making sure that I can convince them rather to go to Saturday's event. I want them to that second exposure. If I can get them to a second exposure before I do a one-on-one, I'm going to have more success in closing them at the one-on-one and getting them enrolled, right? And they are going to be better off for it, right? If they have a bunch of questions and it's just me or just me and my IMA and we don't have a community there, then they're lacking one of the biggest elements to help them come to the realization that this is what they need to do. The more exposures I can get them in front of stories and other individuals in the community, the better it is for when I'm in a one-on-one sitting that I can close them and get them enrolled, because they have experienced the touch it, feel it part of our community and the support of our community and the difference between us and every other option out there, which is our community. So I love the second and third touch before I do the one-on-one. However, if they cannot get to the following Thursday, I don't necessarily want to have them have 2 Thursdays in a row necessarily, unless they haven't funded yet, and they can't get to a Saturday for the next 2 weeks. I'm not going to wait 2 weeks to do a one-on-one. I'm going to do a one-on-one regardless, right? And then I am going to do a bit of an epic. And here's what we do. We'll finish this up with my one-on-one. My one-on-one has internet. My one-on-one has quiet. I don't like to go to a restaurant and have food. If you do that, you're going to have to eat and try to do a one-on-one, and it doesn't work that well. I've done it. I've done it more than once, and I hate it. It takes up time, and it is an interruptive feature to your one-on-one. All right, so drink is good, not necessarily alcohol, but coffee, tea, water, maybe an appetizer if you need to, if you're doing a lunch meeting. Things like that, but I like the setting to be quiet. Starbucks is great, but some Starbucks are really loud and they're really packed, and you don't get a good sized table. I like a bigger table. I like an opportunity to have control. I like an atmosphere that is open, warm, and inviting. And then I bring my laptop, and I'm going to have internet. And I'm going to have my laptop up with the education. I'm going to have 2 things up. I have my PowerPoint, which you guys can access. Michael talked about it yesterday in the Helios under presentations, under marketing. And you can see Richard's, Michael's, and Scott's 15-minute. You can see the actual video and the PowerPoint. Then you can see all three of their introductions. You can see all three of their combination follow-ups, and you have all these opportunities to access this. And inside that webinar, inside those PowerPoints, I like to have the slides of the differences of the three packages. The two packages basically are two products: Essentials and AIT, and then the combos, and then the extreme combo at the end. And underneath them has all of the differences in all of the line items that come with that. And then I can explain that, right? Now, at the one-on-one, we sit down, we do pleasantries. Right off the bat, I'm going to ask them if they have any questions, right? What questions do you have before we get started? And if they don't have any questions, you know what? I looked at the webinar, or I looked at the website. You know, I pretty much understand what it takes. You know what? I'm like, great. So what did you decide on with your funding? How do you want to fund the education? Well, I don't have any money. Okay, now I know all I'm doing is dealing with a funding objection, right? So my one-on-one, you guys, picture this. I can skip all of the comparisons. I can skip all the education. I can skip the community and support and everything they saw on Thursday night. I don't have to go over that anymore because they don't have any questions. They are concerned with the funding. So now I can move right into the funding. The funding, I use a notebook. I also bring a notebook with me, a plain notepad. And then I start to write the process down. Now in the funding, I go over the exact, I start with cash. And a lot of times I tell people with cash, you don't need to necessarily use this. You might have it right now. It might be our only resource rather. But you know, if you get to learn how to put your money to work and make 10, 20, or 30% on your money or more, then maybe you don't want to tie it up in the education. You want to use your credit or your HELOC or something like that. So I go through more options because a lot of people say they have the money. They might only have a little bit of money or whatever it is, and they don't want to spend all 20 grand that they have or whatever the case is. Or in all honesty, it'd be better if they didn't necessarily hold on to the cash and they can put that towards their first deal or towards a lot of other things, in my opinion. So I'm not going to go through the 10 steps of funding or whatever it is, 10, 15, 12, 8. I can make that another training. Michael does it. Christian does it. But I'm going to move into the funding. I will tell you this at my one-on-ones. When I go through the funding, there's a couple things to think about. Number one is, as I go through each of the funding options, I tell a story on every single one. And a story means how someone else funded. Whether it was definitely myself and how I funded. I use a credit card example. I use a HELOC example. I use a life insurance example. I use a 401k example. I use a cash example. I use a get funded online example. I use a sell your stuff example. I had a drummer sell his drum set. I use a leverage example where people leverage their car or leverage their material, their wedding rings, whatever it is, whatever funding option, I'm telling a story. The funding takes 30 minutes. Like I dive into it. That's number one to think about. I always tell a story. Secondly, right? And then I ask them. I'm asking them secondly, I should say. I have three things then. Secondly, I'm asking, do you own your own home? If they don't own their own home, I'm not going to spend too much time on a HELOC, but I'm going to bring it up. And why am I going to bring up the HELOC? Is because of angel investor, right? I ask them, if they're 19 or 20 or 30 or 25, they're not going to have a big IRA of their own. They're definitely not going to have a retirement set up necessarily where they got a bunch of cash in there. And unless they're corporate and they've been working since they skipped college. And I ask them about their car. How did you buy your car? Do you own your car outright? Did you get a cosigner, right? So I know where they're at. If they got a cosigner for their car, then I know that they have the ability to ask somebody to be an angel investor. The whole entire time I'm going through life insurance and all these options, I'm telling a story. And then thirdly, what the other thing I'm doing, asking them about their resource, is I'm reminding them that keep these all in mind. Because even though I know you don't have any of these things, I'm getting to a point where the number one person where most of us get funded is through an angel investor. So I'm reminding them the whole time to start thinking of people, their boss, their mother, father, aunt, uncle, their best friends parents, any of these folks. I'm starting to remind them to think about when I'm talking about these different funding options, they need to be thinking about someone they might know who might have a house, who might have been in corporate America for 20 years, who might have a whole life insurance policy, or perhaps has good credit. Maybe their buddy has good credit, or their buddy's mom or sister has good credit, somebody they've known a while, right? So the whole time I'm training on their funding and how they can fund, I'm trying to remind them that they're going to use an angel investor. And then finally, I close with the angel investor, right? And I go back through several stories on angel investors, including my own angel investor who lent me their credit in my family. And then I also go through the each individual funding option, not all the way through again. And I stop and I ask them, who are you thinking about? I'm sure you have somebody. And I always foreshadow, future pace them. When you start to think about this, I'm sure you've already in your mind gone over the scenario of who you're going to ask. Who is that person, right? I'll ask them flat out. Oh, I don't have anybody, man. I don't, whatever. I don't know anybody at all. They start telling me this, right? I have no resources. I don't know my mom. I'll start bringing people up, right? So number one is they probably already have come up with somebody. If they're in a situation where they are simply not raw at all, they are not able to fund whatsoever, right? And they're telling me they don't know anybody in the entire world that could possibly be an angel investor for them. Not their kids, not their parents, not their boss, nobody. And they've said it over and over again. I'm going to move them to UGA, right? And that's where I'm going to go with. And that's where I'm going to end. But if they're telling me about resources, if they're telling me about friends or family, someone they've thought about, their uncle, their boss, or something like that, and I'm not really moving into UGA. I'm not moving into the financing option right now. That'll be, UGA comes up after they go to get funded online, and I've said, hey, how's your credit? And they're like, oh, it's pretty good. Oh, I think it's okay. It's in 650s or whatever. I'm throwing them to get funded online for sure. I'm going through the get funded online option as one of my last options in funding. And then when they don't qualify, then I move them to UGA, and I start to bring up UGA at that time and let them know what it looks like. And then that's a second follow-up on the funding, on using UGA and the financing, and then we got to find the down payment. In the meantime, I'm not practicing and I'm not teaching on UGA at all at the follow-up. I'm working on angel investor and all of the personal resources they might have. Now, at a funding option, at a follow-up, when they have a question or they want some explanation or they want to see what does the 20 grand get them? What about what are the differences in the packages? Why would I do the advanced over the extreme or whatever? Then I'm going to answer those questions, and I'm not going to do it question-based. I'm not selling them necessarily yet. I'm answering their question because they have a legitimate question. They've seen the information. I'm not trying to book them to another meeting right now, and I'm not doing question-based selling yet. What I'm doing is answering with facts, right? I'm going to pull it up on my laptop. I'm going to open up my education. I'm going to show them what they get. I'm going to watch a class for a few minutes. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to show them a pre-assessment test. Whatever they want to know about the education, whatever they want to know about the differences. I'm going to talk about Keo Jones making her first phone call to the coach when you buy the extreme combo. I'm going to talk about the group coaching when you buy the essentials. And I'm going to talk about a story inside of someone using the essentials velocity banking. Whatever it is, I'm going to share that information. But I'm going to follow every single share and every single answer with a story. The minute that is done, I don't go on to tell more than I need to. I am not teaching the entire class. I'm not going through an entire presentation. I'm not spending 45 minutes on a question they asked me about the differences. I'm going to make a quick point. I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to ask them, did that answer your question? Does that make sense? Is that what you wanted me to say? Is that what you were looking for? Did that answer your question? Does that make sense? And the minute they say yes, I'm going to move to the funding again. I'm going to tell a story, and I'm going to move over to the funding. And that's when you ask for the sale again. Are you ready to get started? Why don't we go ahead and place your order, or have you decided which way you want to fund the combo, right? Yeah, well, I've been thinking about it. And, so on that, I get the education now. I got a question on the combo. Like, why would I get the combo and not the advanced? Or what's the second middle package thing? What is that? How does that work? Okay, now I got another question. But if they don't have that question, and they're just going right to funding, then I'm going to move right to funding. I don't want to spend time on stuff that I think they need to hear about. I don't want to spend time and confuse them and dance around asking for the sale, or dance around the closing, the funding, and stuff like that when it's not necessarily, when they're not asking me for it. When they're not asking me about something else and a difference they need to understand, or something more they need me to elaborate on, then I'm moving forward to exactly what Michael says, which is ask for the sale, enter the order entry party, and things like that. And then if again it comes back, then I'm going to go back over the funding a little bit more, and we're going to move to the next meeting if they haven't figured out a funding option. Most of the time at the one-on-one, we figured out the funding option. They're going to go and they're going to talk to an angel investor. They're going to go and get their HELOC started, whatever it is. We've come up with a solution in the 30 minutes that I've been working with them on funding, right? And so I'm not going over anything based on what I think they need to hear, based on what I want to tell them, based on what I feel. It has nothing to do with me and what I think or feel or want. It has everything to do with what they need and moving them to the order entry. Most of the time, when you're in a one-on-one, people are ready to get started. They might have a few questions, but the majority of it's going to be based on funding and which option is best for them and how they're going to obtain that option. How do they get the HELOC going? How do they get their 401k moved over? How do they talk to an angel investor? How do they use their credit cards? Do they need to call the bank? Do they need to up their limit? Do they need to change their interest rate? You're going to want to have, that's a whole nother training with your 5-star, with your IMA group, at your IMA trainings on how to help people get funded. We're not professionals. We are not planners of finance. We are not CPAs. We are not giving advice. We are not telling them what to do. We're not telling them which one we think is the best option. We're not telling them how to roll over a 401k. We're telling stories, and we're sharing with them what we suggest they do and what our options are and what we've heard people do. I heard, and I know this from a fact, that I can call my credit card company and ask them for an increase. I know that if you call up your custodian, if you go to your HR department, you can talk to them about how to access your 401k money and take out a loan, right? We guide them. That's it. We tell stories. And then I am always, we got a couple minutes left. No matter what the outcome of the follow-up is, whether I entered the order or not, I have to book, as you know, another meeting. I'm going to book another one-on-one. I'm going to get together on the phone with them to talk to their angel investor with them. I'm going to follow up with them on Saturday or Monday or whatever the next day is. I'm going to make sure that I have another call with them so that I can follow up on the progress they made on their funding. I'm going to help them. That's a whole nother training, but I'm going to walk them through Get Funded. If they're doing Get Funded that day, at the follow-up, I'm doing Get Funded on my laptop. It's there. I'm opening up. They're signing up. They're going through the funding. They're getting their credit report. They're putting in their credit card for the $1, and they're doing it. Because that always gets confused, and it always delays the process when they're out there doing it on their own. Secondly, I'm making sure that I'm going to get a call with them, and then I'm also making sure that they're coming to the next event. I will rebook them after a follow-up to another Thursday. They're going to see someone else present, other questions answered. They're going to meet more community members, and they're going to have a better time. And I'm booking them to a property tour. I'm booking them to a Super Saturday. I'm booking them to an intensive. Whatever's coming up next, I'm booking them to that, as well as my next 3-way call, follow-up call, or second one-on-one. No matter where they are in the process, whether they have entered the order or not, whether we found the funding or not, it's a follow-up with them. We're running out of time. Man, I hope this was helpful. This is my opinion of this training is that if you're not comfortable doing what I just did, then it's imperative that a couple things happen. You talk to your 5-star about it and how they go about doing it, and you cater around what they do. You sit down with your 5-star when your 5-star is doing their own one-on-one follow-ups with, even if they're not your guests, but your 5-star has guests and they invite you to come to their one-on-one follow-up. Secondly, the most important thing would get more people in the room and get your own follow-ups going and bring your 5-star with you and have your 5-star or your affiliate or your mentor or your accountability partner, someone who's been there, done that, do your follow-up for you. And then all of my IMAs are almost always with me at every single follow-up with their guests, because their guests are paying me, staying with me, and it's going to help them get 5-starred. So they're going to be there and I'm going to do the work. And then they're going to be able to learn and duplicate and do it on their own once they're 5-starred. In fact, a lot of them learn fast enough that they are going to be able to do their one-on-ones without me there, even when they're not 5-starred, but they're not doing their first one. But if you're not comfortable with this process, you've got to practice it and you've got to get going. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. You can't screw these things up. But if you don't get one in front of them and you're not doing a one-on-one follow-up, you're missing the opportunity to make money, and you're missing the opportunity to advance your career and help other people. And that's the whole goal, is to help other people. So it's imperative that you get in front of the information, in front of the folks with a one-on-one, so that you can help move them forward. Anyway, I don't see any questions. I forgot to do this earlier, you guys. My phone number.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We're bringing a couple of guests on Thursday night, and I was wondering if it's a good idea to bring them to the IMA part of the meeting, or just to the later meeting.
No, the IMA and the Real Estate Mastermind, those typically are for IMAs only. The team calls are for IMAs
Okay.
only. So they already need to be an IMA. They should only come to Thursday. Now, I will let you know that there are some exceptions in the future after they've been to a couple of events or they've already entered their order but not funded. Then you could bring them to that. But if you want a first exposure for someone who's not an IMA, should be the Thursday night and or a Super Saturday training, not an IMA training.
Okay, so that's the 7 o'clock after the IMA.
Yeah, 7 o'clock only, not the 5:30.
Awesome, thank you.
No, great question. Any other questions or thoughts, guys and girls? You guys are awesome. I'm putting in my phone number, 760-533-3141. That's my personal cell phone number, as you know, 760-533-3141. And you can always reach out to me. I'm going to keep training on some of this stuff. You guys are awesome. Have an amazing day. Make it great. I'm just looking forward to an awesome day. And you've got a couple weeks left of this month. Keep up the good work. Melissa, you're welcome. Hera, great. I appreciate it. Steven, awesome. Thank you guys. Ulilani, this is awesome. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you guys being here. It's an honor and a privilege to speak with you and train with you. And thank you. All right, folks, I will end the call. This is recorded, I believe. So he'll put it up on the website and the YouTube. And you guys make it a great day. You've got my number if you need me. And get out there and make it happen. Happy Tuesday, folks. I will end the meeting. Take care. Thanks for listening.